Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Ancient Andes podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Wolf, and it is my honor to be with my mother. Hello, Mom.
Hey, honey bunny.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
What are you doing today?
Today I'm preparing to fly to the Dominican Republic this evening to
Well, that's
visit.
exciting.
Yeah.
Just a world traveler these days.
Mhm.
All right, fantastic. Well, today, Mama, I want to talk about your trip when you came down and visited me when I was living in Cusco, Peru. That was so much fun.
It was great. It was definitely a bucket list opportunity and one we wanted to do while you were living down there so we could get more of a kind of cook's tour, so to speak, of Cusco and the Sacred Valley.
What did you know about Cusco before you went?
I knew that it was high in the mountains, and that what I had read was that you should fly into Cusco, but then go straight to Machu Picchu because it was a lower elevation, and that would help you get more adjusted to the atmosphere. Altitude,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah. Even though we were coming from a mile high in Colorado, Cusco is still like twice that. So it was good to go to Machu Picchu right away.
Definitely. If you're going to be spending an extended amount of time in Cusco, highly recommend you go to the Sacred Valley first or to Machu Picchu itself. Excellent. And how are you feeling about your trip to Peru? Were you scared at all? Were you nervous?
No, the only anxiety I had was getting things settled at home before we went to Cusco. It was more of a definite vacation, and we had family members join us down there. My sister and her husband and daughter were with us, and my husband Dave. So it made it a real kind of family reunion type trip. It was wonderful fun.
Yes, it certainly had those vibes. It was great to have all of you down there at the same time. And how were you feeling upon your arrival? Did you get altitude sickness?
No, I never did. Did I? I don't
I
remember.
don't think so. I remember
No.
Dave was not feeling too hot the first couple of days, but
Yeah.
that could have been from his previous travels. He was down in the Torres de
Paine,
yeah,
in Chile.
in
So
Chile.
he was at sea level pretty much because
Right.
they were going back and forth, because
Right.
it's so low. So yeah, he maybe didn't feel well for a day or so, but I think those of us, since Aunt Julie lives in Park City, Utah, she lives at pretty decent elevation too. So
Mhm.
it wasn't hard for most of us.
Mhm. And so I think one of the first things we did was the city tour, where we went to the Coricancha and to Sacsayhuaman and saw all of those sites. What was your takeaway from well, let's first talk about the Coricancha in the center of Cusco. That, you remember that museum? There's the church is built around it, and then
Yeah, it was great. Well, we bought that pass
Right.
to go to a lot of the different museums in Cusco,
Mhm.
which were each one interesting in their own way, whether it was because of Inca relics that were in there. It also gave a good overview. They all had the history of, the Incas, and then going into the domination by the Spanish, and then kind of the people in Cusco reclaiming, the Quechua people reclaiming their right to the history of the area.
Totally. And I always felt a special connection with the Coricancha just because that was supposed to be the center of Cusco, and Cusco was supposed to be the center of their kind of universe. So it's definitely a very spiritual place,
Yeah, all roads led there.
Exactly. And then when you look at how fine that architecture is, I mean, it's probably more impressive there than anywhere else as far as just the symmetry and how you can't even fit a piece of paper in between those stones. It's incredible.
I would agree. And I think the history of the fact that everybody who dominated the area when they came in, historically, they built their religious, spiritual places on top of the other cultures.
For sure.
Things. So it was really interesting to see the Inca stonework inside of that Catholic church.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And that's so prevalent all across Peru, not just in Cusco. And then, so we went up the hill and we saw Sacsayhuaman.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. What was your takeaway from that?
Well, it's just enormous. And I think the one thing that I didn't understand about the area until I got there and saw it is the incredible Inca ruins you talk about the Sacred Valley and people think about Machu Picchu, but it's everywhere. And you can go on a hike out of your hotel room into the hills and you're going to come across some ancient Inca or, native site, indigenous site that was built, so long ago, hundreds of years ago. And I thought that was fascinating. I hadn't thought about that.
It's just amazing because here in Colorado, everyone is so grateful to have the hiking and they think that it's so amazing. Well, Cusco has that. And then on top of it, these amazing archaeological ruins, that go back thousands of years. So it's super special.
Yeah. And that one that we went on with Cody. Yeah. We just followed this little trail and there were all kind of cows and alpacas and stuff grazing on these Inca ruins that had been there for years and were just part of this farm that I guess I didn't realize that's how it was going to be. It's like going to Europe and you have all these ancient buildings that are still there, and I think it's fascinating to grow up surrounded by that when we live in the United States and we don't have that history. We're just 200 and some odd years old, and to go someplace that's thousands of years old and has ruins that are ancient like that, to an American, it seems unbelievable to grow up. I would think it would give you a better feeling for history and the culture that you came from.
Well, and you certainly see that influence in Cusco. I know a lot of my students, when I was teaching at the Language Institute there, a lot of them were studying tourism and they wanted to be involved in preserving their cultural heritage. So that was really cool to see that they're being included in this as well,
Yeah, I thought it was amazing.
All right. And so after that, where did we go? We went to then we went to Tombo Machai, this is the water temple kind of above Cusco. I'm not sure if you remember that one too well. It was kind of raining on us.
No, I remember that.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
What was your takeaway from Tombo Machai and Puka Pucara right across the street, which is like the fortress kind of lookout area?
Well, just like everything, the ruins are incredible. The stonework, the masonry. Can you call it masonry when there's nothing, doesn't seem to be anything holding it together?
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
Mortar-free masonry.
And just wide open. And I think what I liked about these lesser places, I know we were there in the off season in October, so we didn't have a huge crowd at Machu Picchu, but
nice.
The other sites, there was nobody except for Ollantaytambo.
True, and it was so windy that day. But it was still cool.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I remember Tombo Machai and Puka Pucara. It was just, I remember people were just blown away by the views, because up there when you're above, you can really look out into the valley. You can see Asangate, the mountain, the Apu to the south of Cusco, and everyone was just blown away by how close you are to these just massive mountains.
Right, right. And we didn't talk about Sacsayhuaman, but it was so immense.
Yeah.
It is a kind of a fortress type area. Huge open areas, reminded me of Mexico near the pyramids where they played the games and things.
Yeah, the plaza.
Yeah, it was just this huge open area with the stonework, the incredible stonework. I can't imagine how long it took them to make things like that.
Yeah, I mean, and some people say that it was created in the span of a night. That's one of the creation stories about Sacsayhuaman, which is unbelievable. But most of the conventional theories is that it was created in the reign of Pachacute. But still a lot of questions remain, and it's very difficult to date those stones to get an accurate time on them. So it's certainly one of the biggest mysteries I've ever seen in my life. And I just was so grateful to live at the bottom of the hill. I could hike up there in about 10 minutes from San Cristobal where I was living. So
yeah,
what a blessing.
It was amazing.
Excellent. And so then we took a trip to the Sacred Valley. We had our driver, Tony the Tiger, and he was awesome. Tony took us right into Pisac. And what did you think, Mom, of your first views of the Sacred Valley when we were on that trip over there?
Yeah, well, I think the just the expanse of it, and that every place we looked, there were ruins.
Mhm.
Sometimes they weren't very ruined at all. They were still in amazing
I was gonna say,
condition.
I have a hard time calling them ruins, and I
Yeah,
know a lot of the locals take offense if you say ruinous, because they say these aren't ruins, these are like archaeological remains, which
I
is
totally agree.
I do agree. It's just difficult because for us here, it's so common to say ruins.
I can say archaeological sites. We saw
Yeah.
so many archaeological sites on that trip.
Mhm.
It was just everywhere. And the thing I enjoyed too were all the bulls on the outside of the house.
I should know the name of them. I know it's kicking me in the butt, but yeah, they put them on the tops of their house to guard away from like evil spirits and stuff
Yeah.
like that. What are they? The toros de Paucartambo, if I'm not mistaken. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's where they come from, is Paucartambo. But yeah, those are really cool to see
Yeah.
that custom and tradition still intact.
Yeah, yeah. And just the breadth of the houses that, everything was kind of along the road because the mountains are so steep.
So steep. It reminded me of like a Tolkien book or movie, it really does seem like Mordor kind of. It's amazing.
And the other thing that I noticed was the terraces into the mountains that had been cut into the mountains centuries ago.
And Pisac is such a good example of that. There you really see probably the best example of those terracing systems. I mean, it was just amazing how immense they are.
Yeah, it was incredible. And the view across the valley there was just amazing. And that we had that eagle following us. We decided that was my oldest son, Lucas, Jesse's brother, who died 4.5 years ago in Cuba.
Rest in peace, Lucas.
Yeah, we decided that was his spirit in that bird. He was always a bird freak. And that eagle followed us all through Pisac.
Yeah, and we got to see we got to spend another moment with Lucas later in this trip that we'll tell you guys about, but it was really cool to see him and have him there at Pisac with us. And yeah, Mom and Aunt Julie and I think my girlfriend at the time, Vanessa, I think they stayed behind, and me and Dave and Uncle Richie and Caroline went up into the kind of more extreme part of Pisac, where there's a religious center above it, and there's a really cool tunnel that you go down into through these natural steps. It's just amazing. It was one of the coolest points of interest, I'd say, on our trip.
Yeah, and I think Pisac, the enormity of it was amazing.
Yeah, because it was such a huge agricultural center as well. It's just immense. But there you can really see all three. You can see a religious center, a political center, and also the agricultural center. So it's a very unique site. I love Pisac. And then we traveled to Ollantaytambo, where we were in a windy maelstrom.
Yeah, kind of the end of the road trip.
Exactly.
Yeah, to Ollantaytambo, and it was windy, but it was so cool seeing those granaries up on the hillside there.
It's amazing.
You wonder how people got up there.
I know.
And how they got those stones there.
I know. I hiked up there one day when you guys weren't there. I was by myself and went up there to smoke, of course. And it was just amazing to me how can you build on the side of that? And there's actually a carved face, Viracocha's face is carved out into the stone right next to it. It's just amazing, the site. And Ollanta is just the most incredible stones. It really baffles your mind how they got them from across the river, up the side of the mountain, from the quarry all the way there. It's amazing.
Yeah, we were gobsmacked.
For sure. And then we hit the train. We were in the economy section of the train on that first leg, and we rolled into Aguas Calientes pretty exhausted, I'd say, from that day of exploring. And we got up to our hotel. What did you think of the hotel in Aguas Calientes, Mom?
I thought the hotel was great. I enjoy all the dark wood that seems so prevalent in more local hotels than staying in some fancy American hotel. In that little city, Aguas Calientes.
Yeah, Aguas Calientes.
Yeah, it was so steep. Everything was just straight up and down. It felt like. So that was a really interesting trip. And I think by the time we got there, we were so excited about going to Machu Picchu the next day. It was hard to sleep. And one of the things I wanted to comment was, the train ride was amazing, and we had great food served on the train, and the views out of it, and again the archaeological sites all along the way that you could see that are just unnamed and just local
Totally.
markers,
Right.
basically for the locals. And I thought it was cool the way the train would stop and so many local people would get on and off.